Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm Flying Flamingo Jade, and I want to thank you all personally for being part of our show for 1 year. We've made it 52 weeks, and I still can't believe that it's been 1 year. And I am very happy with everybody that we've had on the show. We've had a couple cancellations. We made it through. We had girls' parties. We had boys' parties. But we've met a lot of people throughout the year, this past year. And when Eric and Shane talked me into doing this with Krista, I was kind of like panic mode and couldn't believe I would ever be doing this ever in a million years. But you guys are awesome. And thank you again. And I would like to start the show. Have a good show and sit back and relax.
All aboard!
Let's ride. Get lost with me tonight. Cruise slow motion, chase the sun as we burn one down. Get lost with me tonight. We go high as a mother. Woo! Nothing's gonna stop us now. Na na na, no no no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na na na. Just in case you forgot, Mr. Worldwide, the world's my block. I'm like time, I never stop. I'm from the bottom, y'all keep the top. See nobody, fear no one. Still the hottest thing under the sun. Still got it locked. And it's never, ever, 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 ever gonna stop. You can knock me down, but you won't knock me out. I love it when they count me out. Now let's party to the nights that we can't remember, with the friends that we can't forget. Get lit. Get lost with me tonight. Cruise slow motion, chase the sun as we burn.
So coming to Bad Apples with all of these paramotorists and just seeing all of the activity in the sky has just been incredible and hard to fully understand what that feels like until you're here doing it. My name is Gladys Lupke. I trained in January of 2021. It took me 32 flights to get on my feet, and once I figured it out and dialed it in and was able to do it, it has been the most fun I've ever had. I was very apprehensive to fly for the first 6 months after training. I always did it, but I was scared to do it because I knew what the landing was going to look like. But getting that landing dialed in, and I really thought that I was failing at paramotoring because I couldn't figure out the landings. But talking with some of the other girls who've been in paramotoring, you know, and them telling me, oh, 25 flights or 35 flights before I got to my feet made me feel better. So Girls Just Want to Fly with Jade Lear, they were the first girl group that I connected with on Facebook and then YouTube. I watch their shows every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And it's just a lot of fun. There's some guys that come on and give their support for the girls flying, and then just really listening to other girls talking about their experiences, because we don't have enough girls in this community. We need more girls.
Today's an exciting day. You're going to do a tandem. Are you excited?
Yes, I'm super pumped.
So this girl hasn't got up since June 2020 when she got her training. We're going to go with PPG Pilot. What up? Yeah, he's got it set up, so have fun.
Thank you.
Take lots of pictures. I'll see you in the air.
I have no intention to do anything acrobatic or dangerous, or we're just going for a nice little cruise.
No worries.
It's the best thing that can ever happen to a person, and you don't know it until you know it. And the last 2.5 years of my life have been the most amazing since I've trained at Aviator. And then you get to come to these events and see all the people, and the experiences never stop. It's almost like your first flight over and over again.
Get lost with me tonight. Oh, high as a mother. Woo! Nothing's gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, hustling blood, sweat, tears. I say what they want, I do what they don't. I am what they ain't. I go hard like Shaq in the paint. I'm a fighter, survivor, rider. NASCAR teams Orlando. Track house bringing that fire. Set ground and pit fire. You can knock me down, but you won't knock me out. I love it when they count me out. Now let's party to the nights that we can't remember, with the friends that we can't forget. Get lit. Get lost with me tonight. Cruise slow motion, chase the sun as we burn one down. Get lost with me tonight. nothing's gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. I don't need water, I need a drink. So pass me a bottle and let's get lit. I don't need water, I need a drink. So pass me another. Ain't nothing gonna stop us. No, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now. Na, 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 no, no, no. Ain't nothing gonna stop us now.
Hey, everybody. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Boy.
Sorry it was so long.
Oh, it was good. It was a nice intro.
So, Deweese, how is everything with you?
I'm doing very well. How about
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
I'm hanging in there. Had a rough day today at the doctor's office, but I got yelled at and told to get my leg in gear and get moving and start learning to walk. Otherwise, he's going to go dig back in there and he's going to prove to me that he can bend it at 130 degrees and he's going to take a picture of it for me. And I'm like, nope,
No.
not happening.
Get to work.
Yeah, it just hurts.
Yeah.
So anyway, Steve, how are you?
Good.
Are we
It's good
keeping you from
flying,
flying?
Today was flyable, but I had a lot of work to do at my job. And last night I was editing a video for 6 hours straight, looked over to my left and saw that I plowed through 12 beers. So a little tired, but no, I've gotten some great flying. And except for that, I almost flew into a thunderstorm last week.
Oh,
Did you get wet?
So that's kind of stupid.
don't want to do that.
No.
Did you get wet
And
at all?
my fault. I saw the cells, and what do? Oh, I'm going to go take a cross country and check something out. Yeah.
Did you get wet at all?
It started raining as soon as I landed.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't the lightning that spooked me. It was seeing the wall of rain coming after me. And I was like, yeah, I got to get down pretty quick.
Yeah. All right.
DP said it doesn't seem like it's possible that it's been a year, and it truly does not.
I know.
It really doesn't.
It's just like about a month ago, I was like, holy crap, it's just unbelievable. And we got Lori Fisher in here. She was one of our guests with her daughter, Cora. Hi, Lori. Thank you for joining. I invited all the past gals to say hi in the chat, so I'm hoping they can join in. And Kay Ray, hey, Kevin. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for all being here again. You know, like I said, it couldn't do it without you. It's like, it's a nice push each week to show you pictures of everything that we do each week. And Deweese and I, for a while, they're doing some of our goofy Snapchats, and Krista trying to get her to do some goofy Snapchats, and just pictures all over and meeting everybody. I love doing that and sharing that. And
Yep.
Wendy.
Yep.
And Angie. Yep. Another 2 guests that were on in the past. So, all right. So enough about us. Let's talk about our awesome guest that we've got tonight. She thinks she's nervous, but there's no reason to be nervous.
No.
She's really awesome. She's helped us out on last year's Moonshiner show. She actually went out into the field and helped because we were having audio problems and internet problems. And she went out and did an awesome job and did some interviewing out on the field. So let's invite Susan Ray in. Hi, Susan.
Hello. So I think this is time number 4.
Oh, yeah.
Because Moonshiner's Thanksgiving
Yep.
a couple months ago. I just haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were awesome at Moonshiners. That
Oh my
was so
God.
awesome. That was so
awesome.
awesome.
I refuse to go back and watch that. I'm scared to death. I still
Oh, it
haven't
was
seen
awesome. It really was awesome.
I was jealous. I wanted that job.
it. I have no idea how much moonshine may have been consumed leading up to that.
Nice.
It's crazy.
So,
Which brings me to one of Hot Buttered Steve's comments on the Monday night of needing to dial this back a little bit. But
what you got?
Here's the thing, Susan. We ain't no quitter.
Yeah.
All right. So, I've got one question.
Uh-oh.
Why do you have the name of One-Wheeled Grandma?
Because I needed a new Instagram handle. And with like Sean Simons being PPG Grandpa,
Oh,
the Onewheelgrandma thing just worked.
are you a grandma?
Pardon?
Are you a grandma?
Yes, I have 2 grandkids.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So I mean, I'm a grandma and I ride a one wheel, so that's why I'm One-Wheel Grandma.
Well, that makes more sense now that I know that.
I'm old. I'm old, Jade.
No.
Yes, I'm retired and I'm old. So
And you ride a one-wheel every day through the
so
woods.
I have a 1-year-old and then a 10-month-old grandchild. So boy and
Oh, okay.
girl, best thing ever.
Nice. Well, congrats. Now that I know that.
And you ride your one
I
wheel.
should have sent you a couple pictures with them. Huh?
Right. Well, that's
So
why
you just
I
thought
asked.
it was like some crazy name because I was slow.
I didn't know. I meant to ask in the the pre-show, but we ran out of time.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's as easy as that. I ride a one wheel and I'm a grandma,
Cool.
and I needed a new handle, so there we go.
So tell us a little bit about your one-wheeling.
So
'Cause you're big
this
into
is
that, right?
part of your paramotor journey, right?
What?
Is you learn to ride a one wheel and you learn to paramotor. They kind of go
Well,
together.
I opted for Varla. I'm not breaking my collarbone.
Right.
But you don't have to get hurt. Just like with paramotoring, it's as safe as you make it.
No, you do have to get hurt.
And
That's the rule.
so this is why I sent the picture of my ankle with the black and blue and
I
the
don't think I got that.
injury on the ankle in the uploaded files, because that was my first one wheel injury. So Brian Haybale Waller, who's my husband's
yeah.
wingman, which I should have put in my bio that I'm just Brian Waller's wingman's wife. It's really all the bio I need. A couple Thanksgivings ago, he was just like setting his one wheel out down at like Wales, and he'd be like, "Oh, whoever wants to ride it, right?" And so I'd take it and sneak it behind one of the hangars and ride it around on this flat grass area where my husband couldn't see me because he was not in favor of my riding a one wheel. So like I spent an hour just working out the one wheel thing, and it's kind of like with paramotors. It's one of the things I love so much is having a new thing that I can suck at. And it's just like here's this new thing that I'm terrible at, and I've got this whole learning progression and ahead of me. I get to, work my brain, work my body, figure out how to do all this. And then once you get proficient enough, now you have all these other things before you. Do you want to race? Do you want to do tricks? Do you want to fly acro? Like what kind? It's very much goes hand in hand. And actually, I'm so glad I ended up doing the one wheel thing, because when I was at paramotor training, had I not had that one wheel for going back and forth between my teardrop trailer and our LZ at the Wauchula Airport in Florida, like just the number of miles that I rode that thing back and forth between the trailer and different stuff at training, if I would have had to been walking that, and then so with one wheels, the most amazing thing with one wheels though is just like with paramotors, it has this whole group, this whole universe of people and friends out there that you didn't know that you needed. So just in my Raleigh and my Oak City one wheel crew, I mean, we've got like 1,000 people in that group. And then we have a huge festival and stuff. And we have people that race and people that do tricks and people that just ride greenways and chill out. It's kind of a little bit of everything.
Now,
But
did you just have that?
Just like with paramotors, it's this whole family that just kind of coalesces around, this shared activity. And it just makes it even all the more amazing.
Did you just have that that one wheel festival?
So our one wheel festival that we have here in Raleigh, we had it in May, and we moved it from the previous year. We had it in the summer, and it was like not the time of year to have it down here. So we bumped it up, and then now we already have next year's scheduled. So that is a crazy fun time with, hopefully this year I bought a race ticket and then I gave it to someone else. But next year, I think I'm all in on trail racing. I keep getting injured doing stupid things like landing a paramotor on pavement.
Yeah,
So-
I won't land on pavement.
Yeah,
I
I
won't do
don't.
it.
Well, I mean, I'm at 14 flights. Landing on pavement is not in my.
Yeah,
Not the
I've
place
landed
I
on
want.
gravel once, and yep, I've got scratches.
Well, I mean, so yeah, it was totally fine, but I have some ankle and knee issues already, and it happened right before the race was right before Shredfest. So I was just like, I'll let someone else race. I'll try to behave.
Hey,
And
so Lori Fisher's got a question. She wants to know if you've ever tried kiting with your one wheel.
I haven't yet, but I'm dying to. And part of it is an issue with just even having anything line up right now with the right winds to be kiting. It seems like the weather has just been
Yeah, I think it's
crazy
everywhere.
the last, year and a half and not working in my favor when I need it to be.
Right.
But it's on my list of things to do, and I would love to be able to, launch off a one wheel, but I don't think that is ever gonna happen.
Yeah, there's a guy named Mark. He goes by the Beard. He's out west, and that guy will just kite up and down runways on a one wheel. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Judson can land on a one wheel now,
Yeah.
and it's just like, instead of making that a goal of mine, I need to, dial it back and be safe and not pretend I'm 20 when I'm in my 50s. So, yeah.
Right.
Shane
Totally get it.
Wyman wants to know how many injuries on your one wheel have you had?
So I'm pretty good with the one wheel with not getting injured. And part of that is, so martial arts background and knowing how to fall and knowing how to roll and knowing how to not do something like break my collarbone, right? I mean, not that it's not out of the ordinary, but so I tend to fall backwards more than I do forwards. So like I don't go Supermaning off of the one wheel. I usually am more likely to like hurt my tailbone or something. But my first, I had one wheel injury in the first week where my board with where I was riding off road, like jammed into me and at like 35 pounds hitting my ankle. That wasn't the greatest, but otherwise I probably have more paramotor injuries than I do one wheel injuries.
You wear any kind of protective gear when you're riding?
I'm sorry?
You wear any kind of protective gear when you're riding?
Yes. So, and my club is very serious about protective gear. Helmets, wrist guards. I wear elbow pads almost always. And then depending, if I'm riding mountain bike trails and trying to race mountain bike trail stuff and trying to get Strava times and things like that, then I'm going all out with knee pads and hip protection. The only thing I don't have yet is I want to get back pad protection and get a new underbase and protect my back and spine a little bit since I do fall backwards. If I fell forwards, I'd go with a chest protection, but I never land that way.
So you're wearing football gear?
I do land. So actually, I wear mountain bike gear, is what works best for me. But I also ride mountain bikes, so I can use it for both.
Nice.
So yeah, mountain bike gear on Onewheels is a really good option.
Steve, why don't you ask Angie's?
So Angie Drum asks, which martial arts style?
So Taekwondo, and the style is a very Korean traditional Taekwondo. My grandmaster came from Korean Army Taekwondo teaching and being in charge of that team and everything before he came to the US, which is also how I met. So that's also how I met my husband, is we had the same grandmaster and we were living in different states. And we were both competing in a national tournament, and we met at a national Taekwondo tournament.
Wow. It's crazy that's brought up because like the other night I got attacked and I've got some karate abilities, like I could chop a 3-inch board. Well, the problem is they came at me with a 4-inch board.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, I was screwed.
That's where the permit to carry, I'm just teasing.
Did you survive your attack?
I guess. Barely.
Yeah, he's here.
You should have seen the other guy.
Yeah.
Right. What was it, a cat?
It was a dog. Yeah.
You tell him, Eugene.
That's Eugene.
Yeah, so
right.
we actually met in Kansas, and then I was in Minnesota, he was in North Carolina. And it was kind of the race of who moved where first and who got a job where first. And
So
it worked out.
Did he move up there first, or did you?
No.
Going
So
down there
I
right away?
was working, I was at the University of Minnesota at the time, and it took probably 9 months to get a job at Duke. So I left Minnesota, got a job at Duke, and moved to North Carolina.
Nice. Let's see. Karen Up says, summary says you have 14 flights. Does that include training?
Yes. Flights that a person gets at training, of course, count. But my flights at training, so I had my first round of training, I had 2 flights. And then my total flights with training, I later had 4. So then I was at 6. So I had 6 flights with an actual instructor on the radio. So I've only had, and that was spread out over, I had 2 flights in, we just need to get into the whole training story, don't we?
Right now.
Do it.
You want it now.
Oh boy.
All right. So do you have your own gear?
Yes. And I've only had 2 flights on school gear.
Okay. So what are you flying? Gladys is inquiring.
Yes.
Besides
so
the watermelon.
Okay, this was the most hilarious thing. I have to tell you this, Jade. Last night, we're at this field, and somebody who's interested in paramotoring was coming out to watch and to see all the equipment and all that stuff, and was just so excited. I get my wing out, and I open up my wing bag, and he's like, oh my goodness, it's the Irish flag, right? And I'm like, you have to tell Jade that because she thinks it's a watermelon. And then I, of course, just tried to start talking his wife into flying. But
There you go.
yeah, from the top, he immediately recognized it which is not why I have those colors, though. That's another training story. So I fly a Ozone, and I'm only flying a Mojo Power 2. And I plan on flying it for quite a while. Whether I move up to,
It does
That
look
is
like
a watermelon.
a Spider in the Ozone line, or whether I jump ship, we shall see. But with currently only averaging a flight a month, it's going to be a long time till I need a new wing.
Why once a month, Susan?
Well, so that's the average. I've gone many months at a time without being able to fly.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I
you
don't
better
buy
tell
that
that-
excuse.
well, no, we can cover all that. But on the equipment thing, my other thing with equipment, I'm flying a Fly Products. What is it? It's the Eclipse with an Atom 80. And I'm doing that because of the weight is one big reason. And then things like the easy ability to tear that thing down really quickly and put it back together, and the minimalist seat and being able to weight shift in it. Eventually I'll probably move up, but right now I'm flying Atom 80 with the Eclipse and loving it.
So,
I love sunsets.
yeah. Angie wants to know, what's your biggest challenge with PPG?
YouTube shows, you know. My biggest challenge at the moment has been places to fly from. So in the 14 flights that I have had, they've been in 3 different states at 7 different locations. I need one place to fly from where I can get my launching and landing consistent and dialed in and have a whole bunch of repetition. And I just don't have the best location at the moment. So that's probably my biggest challenge. And then my second biggest challenge would just be myself.
What's going on in this picture?
So that was Travis Burns and Kyle Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
Being the most amazing, calming people in the world that they are, getting me hooked in for my first tow flight. So my 14 flights is definitely not counting tows. I have had like 15 tows.
Oh, did you love tows?
I love tows. They're amazing. But this is where, with my training situation, we had 2 tow machines, 4 students, and then like 8 instructors. Like everything was so crazy. But to have 2 tow machines for 4 students, the first tow day at training in like Wales, I got like 8 tows in, or 6 tows. I have to look at my book to remember that. I probably got 8 tows because we had 2 tow machines split up, 2 students per each. So we were just able to knock out a ton of towing. Now, of course, that's also a bad thing that I had 8 tows, because had I gotten my landing and my flaring and everything dialed in within my first 3 tows, they wouldn't have kept sending me up. There's a reason I had 8 tows. Like my very first tow flight. Okay, so this is where.
Wait, 1 second. I do have a cat with 8 toes.
You have what?
I have a total of 15, but we don't want to get into that, right? Like,
what did you say, Steve?
I said I have a cat with 8 toes.
Oh God.
So on tow day, I mean, just my anxiety about towing and landing and everything was crazy, off the charts. Tow day itself was just a whole fun thing. And on my very first tow, the helmet that I had on, because we didn't have motors, we didn't have our ear cups all the way down against our head. So here I am on my first tow, and then my helmet kind of like falls sideways or whatever. And so then I can't hear anything on the radio. So Travis is on the tow machine and Kyle's on the radio, and I can't hear Kyle. So my very first tow, my flare was the worst ever, because I'm just like, you know, looking back in my head at different training videos and everything with YouTube stuff. And I'm like, you know, pressure all the way down in my head, but I can't hear Kyle. So my very first tow, I end up like spraining my ankle. And then I'm just like, you know, no way I'm going to let anyone know. I just have to tough it out and grit it out through the whole thing. And like, that was my first tow landing was a bad one.
So
I
Eric
don't always roll a joint, but when I do, it's my ankle.
Yeah.
So Eric took his first tows this past weekend, because normally we worked off of like a sledding hill.
Right.
And we never got a chance when we were going through our training. So he was able to do that with some of the students this last weekend. We went back down to where we trained at, and he loved it.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
That's why I got to do like 6 more in Michigan. And that was just, you know, and it was so funny because at one point in Michigan, I was asked if I wanted to go again, and I was just like, no, I'm good, because I was really wanting to get all these other people that were there to get towed. And I'm just like, oh, no, I'm fine. And they're like, no, anytime you're offered to tow, you always say yes. It's like, if someone's offering to tow you, always say yes. Yeah.
Hey, Kelby's asking, Susan, tell them about your landing in the orange deal. What's Kelby talking about?
So the whole reason that I have the green and white and orange wing is because that is like the Tropicana logo.
You were a Tropicana girl?
So Tropicana happens to be my call sign. On my second flight in Florida during training, I had an engine out, and I ended up landing in Orange Grove.
Oh.
On my second flight, which I was not. So then, I mean, throughout everything, that has just, I had to go and order the wing to go with the Tropicana thing in order to actually have something to look forward to as I was recuperating from my injuries. It may have not have been the most graceful landing, but there was no one there to see it. So to the best of everyone's knowledge, it was just, you know, dialed in and perfect.
Did you feel, so when I only did 3 tows myself, and I stuck them, one of them I hit sink and hit my tailbone, but I felt like I was on a struggle bus for landings when I went to motor flight for a long time. So I thought it was way different. Did you feel the same way?
Well, so my first tows, I was on a Mojo Large, and it was an older Mojo Large. So it didn't have the same shark nose that the Power 2 has. So it's like the Mojo Power Large. And so it was much more boaty. And so then it was totally different than the wing I'm flying right now. So my first tows were on that. My first 2 flights were on that. And then when I dropped down in size to the wing that I have, completely different feel. I don't feel like I ever got my toes dialed in, let alone getting my landings dialed in yet. So right now, that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on, is my landings suck.
Yeah, it took about flight 30 for me to even get them consistently. It was bad.
See, I had my very first landing was amazing. Loved it. I was so nervous about it. I had no reason to be. Which is the video that Jade has of me landing is my very first landing. So that one was awesome. But the whole thing with that one is you could send a monkey up on a paramotor, and if they did what Kyle Mooney told them to do, they could land easily. So it's like, I would like to take credit for my awesome first landing, but it wasn't me, it was Kyle.
So, like in the intro, Gladys had said on the Aviator show, and I took a little clip of Reese's video of Gladys's interview. Thank you, Gladys. That was awesome. She's saying that it took her 29 or 31 flights to get on her feet. So, and like Shane Wyman saying, don't give up.
Right.
It's where I always land on my feet, but my flare's just not where I want it to be. And the momentum that I'm bringing into the ground, I'm not able to run it out the way I need to. And then, like right now, my problem is I come in, I land when that weight shifts onto me from the wing of the motor, it ends up pushing me into the ground, and I can't run it out. And then my wings, overflying me, which don't like that. And I was really hoping last night that I would be able to get a good landing in, but we had like nil wind, and I ended up with like 2 failed launches and didn't get in the air last night. So,
what's your thought process as you're coming in for landing?
It's been different every single flight, which is why, because every place I've flown, the most I've ever landed at one single site has been in Michigan. I was at the same place for 4 landings. Like, that's my max. A lot of places I've landed once or twice. So my thought process has been different every time, which is why, like, I really need consistent location and repetition, right? Sometimes, one time my thought process was, I don't care how it happens, I need to be on the ground now.
Wendy
I'd
said,
love to have I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'd love to have a conversation about this, but again, I'm such a beginner myself too that I kind of don't either.
So Wendy says she's got 19 of those same foot landings too, Susan. Have you considered a trike?
Absolutely not.
Why?
I don't know what's wrong with you trike people.
Hey, Bad apples, I guarantee there were just as many, if not more, trikes than there were foot launchers. Help me out, people in the chat.
I believe it.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
No, I believe it. It's just, for me, there's something about foot launching. I can't describe it, but it's what I want to do. I do not want to do trike.
What if you even just tried?
When I get to a point where I'm 75 and I've been flying for 25 years foot launch, and I'm just like, I need to transition to trike. I might.
You're calling me old.
No,
foot launchers are really stubborn. Like, I've got a guy in my group. He's
something,
older. He's in AFib, and he's like, nope, I'm foot
something
launcher.
about running into the sky. So, like, the minute I go and have a trike, like, part of me is just like, well, I might as well just get an ultralight now and go experimental and have an airplane. The feeling is different.
Yeah, like Kelby says here, I type A personality.
So Kelby would know. Kelby had the unfortunate experience of getting to witness my training. And having to hear my nervous chatter during training. When I get nervous, I talk way too much, and he ended up having to listen to too much of that.
That guy owes me a lot of cigarettes.
Thank God he was there because he actually was able to help keep me grounded in some certain scenarios that came up during training. And now I'm gonna,
Your husband. Do you want to go drag him from the other room? All right. Hey, before we go any further, we're already past the 7:30 mark. We're at 7:40. Eric,
and I have no Kleenex.
Kelby says it was awesome.
if you want to go get a Kleenex quick and go drag your husband over here, bring him over.
I got a t-shirt.
We're going to do a spinny thingy.
Yay!
And I'm going to give away a shirt. As soon as I can get my leg downstairs, I'll probably just slide down the steps. Eric's been actually figuring out the screen printing. And I'm going to design and probably just have him make probably one of the Paramotor Pilot shirts. So if it's a Paramotor girl or a Paramotor, we're going to give away a shirt tonight. So if Spinny Wheel Thingy could show up, any of you guys, if any of you guys made a comment in the chat, now's the time because we're going to be giving away one more thing at the end of the show. Scott Stanton. I haven't seen him in here, but he's been making some good comments in here. Congrats, Scott. If you can.
Yay. That's who I was hoping would win. Scott is like saving my life right now with my number one problem with paramotoring is places to fly from.
Hey, K-Ray.
He's very graciously sharing a location. And so fingers crossed for Good Weather Friday.
Yeah.
That's where we were last night was with Scott. So
good. So is he a trike or a foot launcher?
Foot launch.
Sorry.
Yeah, foot launch.
Dang.
I just don't understand what it is about the trike pilots. Like, do you see foot launchers trying to talk trike pilots into foot launching?
Yes. My husband trying to talk me into it now that I got a new knee.
I was like, the trike pilots are always like trying to, convert me or something.
Thank you,
Sean. Sean says, happy 100th episode.
No, 52nd, actually.
100th.
Some days it feels like
100.
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year.
So he's a foot launcher. Okay.
It also means he didn't fly tonight.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah. I know Nick Griffith is in the chat. Nick, are you still on vacation this week? Or are you going to be able to fly Friday?
Come on, Nick. You got to take video for us and tell us how Susan does.
So the type A personality, I also have certain numbers that I prefer. So I'll be happy when I fly on Friday and can have a 15
yes.
for my flight number. That will make me happy.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Definitely.
I'll try anything 15 times. Yeah.
Well, I cannot imagine. I can't believe that I'm not at like 100 right now.
When did you first train again?
So my whole lead up to training was my husband started really getting into watching everything with paramotoring and getting sucked down the YouTube rabbit hole and all that. And he had just gotten his private pilot's license and was flying airplanes at the time. And we're kind of in the situation of, can we really afford to buy an airplane, right? And then do you want to go kit built? What do we want to do? And then he got into paramotoring. And he really went and decided he needed to convince me that he should be able to train. And he thought it was going to be a hard sell. So when he came to me and was just like, here's this thing I want to do, he had his whole reasoning. It was so much cheaper than an airplane, right? Only $15,000 for gear and training. And I just immediately looked at him and I'm just like, yes, what can I do to support you? How can we make this happen? So he was like, at the time, aviator's wait list. It was, a few months out for classes. So he starts kiting a wing and doing all that, getting ready to train. And then he trained while I was recovering from surgery. So that was a fun thing. But at the whole time he was into, training, I couldn't even pay any attention to it. I didn't care about it whatsoever. I'm like, I support you, but I'm not interested. Because I basically was at a point in my life where I was going to the emergency room and having blood transfusions and just doing everything I could to be alive and get through the day and go to work and do stuff with having children and running the household, all that. So it's like, it was not on my radar that I would ever be doing this. So he trained in November of 2019, Thanksgiving class. And then later in the spring of 2020, we've got COVID. We've got, the whole world being turned upside down, depending on where you were within, COVID stuff. And I was at the park one day and he was kiting and I'm like, okay, I want to, try this. And I picked up that wing and I was immediately hooked. I had always wanted to paraglide ever since like seeing paragliders in Switzerland in 1985. I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that, but I don't live in the Alps, And in North Carolina, where I live, I mean, it's like, yes, I want to paraglide, but it's never been on my radar. And I've never been one that really wanted to fly. But like picking up this whole thing, it was just like with the Onewheel. Here's something new that I totally suck at, that I can have this whole skill progression in front of me and learn how to do. And there's just something that clicked where it's like, I need to learn how to do this. But then all throughout 2020, trying to line up tandems, because like everyone that has a fear of heights that flies paramotors, they always say, like I tell people, when you're flying a paramotor, it's totally different. You can have a fear of heights on other stuff, but with a paramotor, completely different.
Yeah, same way.
Do not rule out flying a paramotor because you have a fear of heights. And so I was just like,
Or fear of widths.
I was refusing to set my goal on training until I could get a tandem and know whether or not I would get sick or not. Like I have a lot of different things where, commercial airplane, for example, hate it, makes me sick. I'll throw up. I mean, not a good thing. So I'm like, until I get a tandem, I'm not even going to make this my goal, right? So Thanksgiving 2020 down at Aviator, I ended up getting a tandem from Judson. And from that moment of launching with Judson on a trike, I mean, no looking back, that moment changed my life, forever. The whole transformation of everything with flight, like it drives me nuts when all of us that have done it, when we're telling other people, how life-changing it can be, how amazing it is for anxiety, depression, recovering from past trauma. There's like so much stuff that it can break you wide open, heal you, get you to overcome things that you never thought you were going to overcome, just turn your life completely around. And like Eric Farewell, like when I would be just like, oh God, I can't train this year because of this stuff with this job. And he's like, well, leave your job, And it's like, oh, I wish I had done it so much sooner. I wish I had believed everybody about how transformational it is. And just
When
how
did you take your first flight?
And how amazing it is. So ever since that tandem, I mean, literally, no looking back. It's just been, and of course, like, so when I took that tandem, me and another female pilot that her husband had trained at Aviator too, as well as my husband, and she was down there, and we both took our first tandems that weekend. And it's like we were both making plans. Oh, we're going to train next Thanksgiving. So like 12 months out was our plan because we could fit it into the schedule. And the minute we both landed, we're just like, nope, I need to train tomorrow, you know? It's like, forget this 12-month type A, plan everything to the T. No, I need to do this tomorrow.
So Karen Up wants to know, why do you fly in so many areas?
So the reason I've flown a few places is my original training was in Wauchula, Florida, and I only got 2 flights in. And then I waited 3 months to continue training up in Michigan. And this is where Justin with Leading Edge PPG, thank God for him. I mean, he had already had a plan with training his daughter, his wife, a friend of his daughter and wife over like 4th of July kind of holiday stuff. And it worked out where I was going to be able to go up there and be with them. So like, I mean, that was like the transformational week that I needed, because here we had 5 ladies. Now I had already flown, but the circumstances under my previous training were so crazy. But most of us didn't have, like, we weren't into motorsports. We weren't, didn't have a history with a whole lot of 2-stroke engines. So we spent so much extra time doing lean back exercises, doing sim stuff with those motors, getting so extra comfortable with having that engine on our back, and doing so many hours literally of extra work that you wouldn't necessarily do in class. Being able to focus in and dial in all that stuff and have like no fear of your engine, and to be totally comfortable with all that, to get more toes in. So I'd had 2 flights in Florida, then I went to Michigan, and then the way everything worked out there, I got 4 flights in. And then being back home, I had a whole struggle where I went another 3 months without flying. And then I finally got a flight in North Carolina. And I barely got that flight or 2 in before my husband and I had already planned on going to Florida at Thanksgiving. So then I got a couple flights in at Thanksgiving in Florida at like Wales. And then with trying to fly at home. So like in North Carolina, I have had 3 or 4 locations that I have flown at here. And it's always dependent on what's the wind direction, what's going on. Is there a soccer game on the soccer field that I would love to fly at or not? And then, so like right now during the summer, some soccer fields that I would fly at, the wind is in the wrong direction right now. And then my husband, having his private pilot's license, he can be on the radio for me at an airport. So we do have a few airports that are small enough that I would fly at, but like the airport that my husband flies at, there's a jump school, there's a flight school, there's helicopter training, there's a whole ton of planes. I don't like flying there. And then when you do take off, you don't want to engine out within a certain,
Got a lot of woods.
Because you just have trees. So it's like, this is where the whole location problem. And also why thank God for Scott. Because right now any time that he invites me to fly, his location that he has is the best option I have at the moment.
Good. So what year was that? Was that 2 years ago or was that last year that you
So
started?
I trained in Wauchula in March of 2021.
21. Okay.
And then I went up to Michigan so then I was like, got all my gear, took all my gear up to Michigan at the end of June, beginning of July.
Okay.
And
I think we started talking then.
got some more flights. Yeah. Well, so this is where, I mean, I was like, I didn't want to be the guest with 2 flights, And at this point, I thought for sure, I mean, like in my head going to training, being the competitive person I am, I'm like, I'm leaving training with X number of flights, and then I left training with 2.
And I'm okay with hearing that. And I think everybody else is, because
Right.
it's like, you just tell us your experience, your thoughts of, I mean, I swear I thought I saw my grandma in a cloud on my first flight because I had tears in my eyes.
Oh.
And at the end of the day, I mean, like, for people who watch this, like, I remember when I first started out, like, you don't always want to listen to people who feel this is completely normal because you can't relate to them. Like, it was always awesome when it was like someone brand new on that's like, I still almost crap my pants when I do this, like, that's nice to have those people to relate to. And even to this day,
I have a bucket that I keep in the trailer where the paramotors go, because
I don't like where this is going.
Not every place that I fly has a bathroom or a porta potty or anything like that. So one of my purchases during COVID, because depending on what state a person was driving through, some of the restrooms were closed in 2020. So I actually had to purchase a bucket just to have, because you never knew what was going to happen. So that comes in handy when I'm at some random sod farm.
Hey,
and there's no bathroom.
We should have Wendy Weaver on here because she's got a product. She got stuck on the interstate heading back down to Florida.
Oh no.
She posted it on my Facebook page. So maybe Wendy will be able to come in.
Yeah, it's more of the paramotoring has saved my life in so many ways. And one of the ways it saved my life was it ended up putting me in the hands of an orthopedist who took one look at me and said, your adrenal glands are not working. You have a nutrient deficient, nervous system disorder. Like, he was able to okay, you've got this stuff going on that you came to me for, but here's all the blood tests, all the blood work we're going to do. And so, I mean, like, everything that has happened to me because of paramotoring has all put me in the right place at the right time. And it has just been insane. So, although a lot of my health stuff has gotten straightened out, I just finally got my heart monitor off last night.
Yay.
Awesome.
Congrats.
But I have no idea what any of that data is going to yield. And then my echocardiogram's not till next month. And yeah.
So I think we got a new call sign for you.
Uh-oh.
Tropicana honeypot.
So here's the thing is Wendy Curtis, who wrote this amazing book that she's gotten awards for. So she trained to fly paramotor, and her husband flies, and they also have a balloon and stuff.
Put that up on the screen.
So before my call sign was even official, there was still a few different names that were in the running. And I was just trying to keep my mouth shut because, if you like a call sign, you obviously won't get that one, right? But before it had been officially decided, she signed my call sign in the book. So that kind of solidified it. So she put to Tropicana in writing. So then when they were trying to finalize call signs, I was like, Wendy already says it's Tropicana.
Wendy of the Explorer said Wendy C was in her training class.
Yes. And then she came over to Wauchula right after.
See, my call sign is the Chiquita Banana Lady. Yeah.
So yeah, I got to hang out with Wendy and her husband for a week, and
They're
that
great.
was so much fun.
They're very, very nice people.
Yeah.
So I want to take a break for a second. Susan, you can go for a second. I want to thank Justin Weaver for being in here, DP, and Angela, and Wendy the Explorer, and Walter. It's finally nice to have you on one of the shows lately. We were wondering where you've been. Angie Drum, the skydiver, Nick Griffith, Tony Marzano, Linda Anderson, Paramom, Sean Nafsker, and let's see who else we got in here. Lori Fisher and JP Tulo. Glad you could make it, Mr. TikTok. And Kelby Cox and Bill H was in here, I believe, earlier. John Wayne and Gladys. Yep.
I don't know. I'm thinking Susan's going to need another hour. Yeah.
If she wants to keep going, she can.
All right. We're cooking with Crisco now.
So
I'm locked and loaded. I got.
Let's find out where you're at on social media so people can subscribe to you.
If people just go to.
You're on Facebook.
I am. I don't hardly post anything on Facebook. I will post some flight stuff on there, but that's about it.
I am adding you right now.
Oh, and
so,
give us a thumbs up tonight too, people. Please.
Onewheelgrandma.com should have all my links to everything, so that makes things easy.
Yep.
I'm mainly an Instagram person. I love pictures. I'm starting to dabble in TikTok. I'm not good at it. So another thing I get to suck at and use to grow. So that's yay.
You're gonna have
primarily I'm an Instagram person.
You're gonna have to teach me some stuff on Instagram. I need to figure out how to do the music.
Oh.
Yeah, so here's her web page you can go to. And it tells a little bit about her.
So this is where I cannot say enough good things about One Up Adventures and about Justin Fox and now Leading Edge PPG.
Good.
And
right?
So like my whole thing with when I was choosing to train with One Up, this was before that I knew that Allie was working with them. And then also before I knew that it was going to be a combined class. So I was really like, I want to train with Travis and Kyle was kind of like my thing. So getting to watch Allie progress as an instructor and to watch all the things they were throwing at her with training her up and everything else, that was such a huge added bonus that I hadn't expected to get to witness. And then to watch her grow in the year and a half since then has just been amazing. So it's like,
how long had she been flying? Do you know how long she had been flying before she went there?
No, because when she was working at Aviator, I don't know how often she got to fly because she was.
Oh, she worked at Aviator?
Busy working, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so Justin making himself available to me. And then also when I was in Michigan, Fly My PPG and One Up were going to do another joint class up in Michigan the following week.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Mooney was in Minnesota. He hadn't moved back to Florida yet. He was in Minnesota and he was messaging me. He's just like, what are you doing in Michigan? You know, so he ended up coming to Michigan a day or two early, like changing his plans a little bit so that he could be there to help.
Sure.
So I got to have Justin and Kyle and then also Bob Harris, who I just love. The three of them helped me a lot then, my second round of training. And I got to have Kyle on the radio again, which was like a huge thing for me to get over my engine out experience and to like overcome everything and not give up on stuff.
Hey, if
Continuing to push on every single day and keep doing it and keep trying is.
If you had an engine out, you're golden. You've got it down now.
No. Well, so the funny thing is, though, is my engine out landing, I had no problems with it. I wasn't nervous about it. It was not alarmingly scary or anything. There was a whole host of decision-making processes that I wasn't necessarily ready for. But that also had to do with so many things of, I had no business flying and being in the air that day to begin with. So we had at the end of tow day, we were out on the field doing some kiting that afternoon and my phone was blowing up and I didn't know necessarily why. It didn't make sense. And so then here, like after kiting session, packing up the wing, I'm making some phone calls, and we had a really close person to the family that had just tried to kill themselves and was in the emergency room, didn't know if they were going to make it, ended up in the ICU for like a week. Like, I didn't get any sleep for like a week and a half. So like all throughout training, there's all this stuff going on in the background. And so the first day that everyone else in the class was flying, that I knew was their first flights, I was just like, my first decision as a pilot was, I have to ground myself today. I'm not in a place where I should be in the air.
Right.
So like that was one of the hardest decisions, was to ground myself for a whole day. But thank God that I did, because I got to watch everyone else's trials and tragedies and butt landings and butt bounces. And I had some fabulous classmates that I'm friends with that I talk to on the phone all the time, that we just are always supporting each other and always checking in to see who's gotten a flight in and who hasn't and stuff like that. Or even questions that we don't want to ask someone else. We'll ask each other. But I got to sit back and watch all of them fly for a day. So then that actually made it easier for me when I did fly the next day. And then the next day I had just enough wind that it made it a little bit easier than what they had to deal with. So it totally was not fair.
Right. Like Gladys said, glad you landed out safely.
You need to play the video of my landing.
I'm like having problems with my pictures here and everything that came through. Are you able to pull it up at all?
I'm sure.
I am so sorry.
Oh no, it was just so hilarious because like I was so paranoid and afraid of my landing. And then I ended up, my first landing is what I go back to and watch before every single one of my flights.
David Wolf wants to know, while it was a difficult decision to ground yourself, were you proud of yourself to have the restraint to wait?
It was a difficult decision because a person, like, all the money that you invest in training, the time, training a few states away. And then also wanting to compete with the guys and have a good enough competitive non-quitter edge to actually go and ground myself. It was just one of the hardest decisions because it's not that it meant failure, but it definitely, when you want to fly so bad, but I'm not in a place to be making good decisions in the air as a pilot, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like just to be able to know that I've got no business being in the air today,
All right.
So Angie said, takes great strength to make that type of call for ourselves, but it's one of the most important when needed.
So, and this is also why I'm probably only at 14 flights is, there's been times where there's been something that's been wrong. And it's like in my brain, it's like, oh, I can just launch and fix that in the air, right? And there's people I know that would do that. And it's like, no, if I know there's something wrong, I'm killing my engine. I'm not launching. I'm fixing it now and resetting out. So, having the restraint to make wise decisions is not always what I want to do, but it's what I do.
Do.
That's right.
Boo. Boo.
So
It's always a weird dice roll. Like when you're newer, you'll have certain attitudes where it's like, I don't care if that brake toggle's wrapped. I'm going for it. I'm not saying that's me.
Right.
Compared to being ultra safe and anxious and trying to find an excuse not to do it. So it's a weird spectrum, I feel sometimes. And honestly, this does hit me where some days I don't care. I'm just going to go. And then other days I'm just overly cautious or anxious instead of trying to find that middle ground of just thinking through it like, hey, does everything check out? Okay, I'm going to go.
Okay, so it's okay. I shredded my brake line the other day. Let me just tie it back together and go. That'd be all right. Just kidding.
Deweese just spoke.
There's so many people I've seen them they'll go and launch and crash and roll and go and try to launch again in 10 minutes. And like, man, like you just, the more you travel and visit, you're like, people are crazy.
Deweese, would you care to
No,
any?
no more details.
What'd you do, Deweezy? Deweezy, you spilled right now. She's still looking for her video. You got to tell us.
I heard the
I
horn.
just wrapped some lines up in my paramotor.
Well, why'd you do that?
I just tore another paramotor up. No, I just wrapped up my paramotor. I tore up 3 lines on my wing, and I got to send it off and get some repairs done on the wing. Not on the wing.
This is why you can't watch my kids.
Where's my
And poor Randy. He's having nervous breakdowns.
Oh, no.
see?
Hang on. That's
my
okay.
prop.
Try to show it again.
My prop.
Yay.
Poor Deweese.
So anyway.
What? What's this, Susan?
Oh, nice.
Which gave me the excuse to order some e-props.
Yeah. I got a collection. You got a collection?
So I've got the screen share thing. I just don't know.
Okay, so go on the bottom. Do you see where it says share?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, and then you got to kind of click on each one of those. Click share screen. and then click probably over to window if you've got it up in the background.
All right, just a second. Let me stop it. Stop screen share. We'll start again. So share screen, yeah.
Yep. Share screen, and then it brings up entire screen window or Chrome tab.
Right.
So click on one of those to see where it is on your, under one of those tabs.
Yeah.
Do you
I
find
did
it?
all that.
Okay, and then when you click on it, click share down on the bottom right of that pop-up that you're just looking at.
Well, that, like, so I've done all those things. And
So do you have the
You gotta
video
put it
up
on
in
your
the
phone
background?
and just hold it up.
Do you have the video up in the back? There we go. Oh, she's on something else here. Okay. Let's do this. Okay, now play it.
so this is my very first landing. There's Allie getting her phone out.
Wow.
Woo-hoo!
Perfect.
Nice. Okay, now you can, there you go. Good job.
On a
was a
scale
good
from
landing.
1 to Steve, that was a 10.
So like that's basically what I focus on every time before I go fly is I know how to land. I've had good training. I've done it before. It doesn't have to be a cluster at the,
But it'd be a lot more fun if it was.
no.
Yeah, but they're not always going to be perfect like that because last weekend we went down to the school where we trained and it was fun because one, I got out of the house and onto my crutches and got some fresh air. And two, we got to see a gentleman that had been there like 2 months prior for his first day of kiting. We got to see him Sunday morning take his first flight and it was flawless.
Mhm.
And then he tried a second time and
Right.
he kind of stalled after he got the wing up and he just kind of stood there. So that made the wing kind of flutter around after he started going again. Then he kind of stutter stepped and went down to his knees. Then he tried a third time and I'm not remembering what happened, but it wasn't, he didn't break a prop or anything like that. He didn't get off the ground. He was frustrated, but he's like, let's just call it, let's end with the good flight, ended with a good flight on Father's Day. And he went home and, I took the videos of the other ones so he could, study what happened on the other two. So just, they'll come.
Well, not to mention, like, the more you travel, if you go to more and more gatherings, like the people you really, really look up to,
Yeah.
you'll see them mess up.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
in ways that you won't. And you're like, wow, I would have never messed up that bad. And it's kind of fun to watch. And then you're like,
I was
oh,
scared to death at Bad Apples last year. And that's why we went a little early. And I'm like, okay, I'll fly ahead before everybody gets there. And did fine. And then we went to Moonshiners and everybody was, setting up and all the foot launchers were having problems and, guys that have been flying for years. And it was just crazy wind. I went down to the far end of the runway because I didn't want to get seen flubbing up. I made it in the air. But I think it was because I had the trees blocking the crosswinds and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So the 7 places that I have flown at is nothing compared to the number of places I've tried to fly at. Because we went to Moonshiners. I went a little bit. I guess I didn't get there till Wednesday, but then we stayed late on purpose, thinking I'd be able to fly afterwards. Tried to fly at Payson, Virginia. There's a lot of places I've done powered on taxi practice is what we'll call it at, and have not flown. So I think this year is going to be a lot better.
Are you going to Moonshiners?
Definitely will be at Moonshiners. I'll definitely be at Pace. I've got a
Foot
couple
drag. Endless foot drag. Come on.
others
over
on the
here.
list. I need to make it to Kennedy Creek, I think. I'd love to make it to Northern Lights. Don't know if I can yet.
We'd love to have you there. Yes.
Fingers crossed for Sur the Shore. So my last child at home is going into her senior year. So after this year, there's some of those other ones that I might be able to do, but there's so much stuff I can't do with responsibilities.
Totally get it.
Gas prices.
I enjoy not being responsible whatsoever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at the photos that I sent Jade, I've got one that I'm looking at right now that just reminded me of, so after my engine out, and I ended up having to land in an orange grove.
Yep.
So then after I landed, I'm like kind of doing the head to toes check, like not moving, because I did a lot of different safety things growing up and went through a lot of different training things. So I'm like on the ground. It wasn't a perfect landing. I went through a couple of rows of trees. So I'm on the ground and I'm like, okay, I'm not moving an inch, because if I have any back injuries, I'm waiting for a backboard. Like, I am not moving. And I'm sitting there evaluating from my toes up, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm totally fine.
So was it a butt landing or what?
Well, so I went through a row of trees and another row of trees and then landed in between two rows of trees. So it was a foot landing, because I also, in my head, as I was going through the trees, was doing whitewater safety of feet out, protect your head, you know, just like you would with rocks in a river, for example.
Yeah.
So going through the trees, it was definitely a foot landing, but the amount of pressure that my knees and ankles took wasn't fabulous. But so I landed between these two rows of trees, and the wing landed on this third row. And I determined that, you know what, everything's great. And of all the time, so like I do not hardly ever watch Tucker Got videos, just like YouTube and videos. This is not the place to say this. YouTube's just not my thing. But I had just seen the week before Tucker Got had an engine out in this, in Florida. And so then so here I am, I'm just like, the radio was all screwed up. And with being able to tell everyone back at the airport that I was fine, I'm like trying to stand up and talk on the radio and do all this stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Everything's great. I know where I am because I'm a map person. I'm like, I know how they're going to have to drive to come pick me up. I'm like, I'm going to start gathering my gear and bringing it out to the road. So then I took a look at the wing and I was like, you know what? This is a school wing. I don't want to be the one to have to pull it out of the trees and damage it. Because it actually, the wing was totally fine. It was resting on top of these orange trees. So I took the motor and stuff, carried it out to the road. So then when Travis came driving around and then was coming down this road, I was standing out there hitchhiking. So they really didn't know what they had waiting them. Kyle went and flew over to check on me, and I waved at him and everything was good. And I had radioed back with them a couple times, but then I kept losing. It was just the most hilarious thing ever. And I was calling back to the airport going, do not tell my husband, because he was in North Carolina at the time on his way down to Florida when this happened. But then they came to pick me up. And so I'm standing there jokingly hitchhiking. So Travis gave it right back to me. He pulls up in the truck, slows down, and then tears off as though he was going to leave me. So
I'm just trying to get a visual in my head, like as you were going down into it was basically an orange grove, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you
You
weren't flying parallel down a road. You were going perpendicular with the rows.
So the thing is, the incident has been debriefed to death, and a whole bunch of different people like to point fingers and get blame and stuff going. So, like, I want to really, really avoid.
Oh no, I just want a visual of how
what
you
happened
landed.
and getting into too many of the details.
I was in your seat and I was like going down. Like, were you like actually kind of going through trees?
Oh yeah, so I went literally through 2 rows of trees.
Okay,
but
and so as you're,
it was
I'm just curious, like as you're in that moment, so you're going through trees, like what were you thinking? Were you able to like flare it all? How did it feel? Like, that's something I'm just curious about.
So the whole tree thing was having adrenal glands that were blown and having a nervous system disorder. Everything that I experienced all through training was just insane because just having my whole nervous system not functioning the way it should have been. So before I went down through the trees, I was pretty much dedicated to doing a downwind landing. Like, there was no way I was going to be able to turn around and head into the wind. I'd be landing in trees for sure, whereas downwind, there was this cow pasture.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, look, a cow pasture. My motor's out. I've got this paragliding wing. My descent rate is going to be X. I can make that cow pasture. I'm like, I'm going to land there. We'll deal with the cows later. And I'm like, the way the barbed wire fence was, I'm like, I know I can clear the barbed wire fence. It's going to be fine. Like, I was not scared or anything like that. But in the radio, so during training, the only thing we're doing with instructors is yes and no with our feet. Mm-hmm. So when I knew my motor was out, no one else knew my motor was out. And then I wasn't ready to be pilot in command with everything else that was going on during training. Another situation, I shouldn't have been in the air, right? With everything between problems back at home, not getting any sleep, just powering through stuff. And then I'm not the most teachable person.
I like it. Yes.
So like this is a thing that I know and that I work on. And so like all throughout training, I'm like, I'm going to be a good robot. I'm going to listen. So like during this whole thing, I was so focused on doing what I was instructed to do, being a good robot, following instructions. So here I was needing to be pilot in command, and I should have gone pilot in command a whole lot sooner, but I was so stuck on waiting to be told what to do. So I got myself in the situation where I'm going to land in this cow pasture, but I can hear everyone else back at the airport, and they're talking about what is over in the space that I'm in. Because, of course, I'm at training. I'm on my second flight. It's not like I'm at home looking at a map, doing flight planning and everything else I would do for a normal flight.
Right.
So I didn't pay enough attention to what was around. So I'm going at this cow pasture, and I can hear Justin Fox in the background yelling, "There's power lines over there." Or it was Kyle or somebody knew exactly where I was and what was in front of me. And so I'm like, eyes on the horizon, eyes on the horizon. And then I hear this person saying, "There's power lines over there." I bring my eyes down, and there's these power lines that I cannot clear. And I'm like, I know I cannot clear these power lines. So that's where I said 3 words. They're all 4-letter words. One starts with an S, one starts with an F, and one starts with a D. So, like, seriously, my brain, I said those 3 words, and then I'm like, okay, just went straight into my training. I look left, I clear left, which I don't need to clear left. I know there's nobody there, right? But I do it anyway. So it's like look left, clear left, and I had to pull a hard 90, which is why I went down in the orange grove.
So how was the last moment, just like going through the trees? Like,
well, so you've got 2 kinds of people that, like, say you're in a car accident or something. You've got the people that everything slows down, like Matrix type mode with the bullets going past you, And then you've got the people that it's just, a big blur. So for me, it's like the time slowing down type person where, you can do your OODA loop, you can make decisions, you can be aware of every single split second of the whole thing and then relive it every single split second through your head for the next, 6 months. Yeah.
I think you handled it quite well myself.
No kidding.
Well, so this is why my wing is green and white and orange, is that was one of my ways of dealing with this was on my drive home from Florida. So after my husband and my daughter got to Florida, which was that same night, my husband didn't know anything about this. He walks into the FBO at the airport. He hears me debriefing my flight. And that's the first that he's heard of any of this, is me sitting at the table doing a debrief with our class and our instructors. So I feel horrible for him and everything he had to go through with that. But so I had like serious delayed pain reaction. So I was up one-wheeling and walking, even kiting one day without being in any recognizable pain. There would be times where I would like suddenly get like super nauseous and stuff, but it wasn't until a couple days later that my brain did a whole reboot. And now I was, oh my God, I was completely unable to do anything. I was unable to drive home. So now we had 2 vehicles in Florida. So that was fun. So driving home from Florida is when I placed my order for my wing with my custom colors. So it's like my whole wing just represents, pushing forward and overcoming it and not quitting and not having that second flight define anything in a bad way, but just define everything in the resiliency way.
Totally.
I had a motor out on my second flight as well, but it wasn't near as traumatic as yours. I landed on the flight on the airway.
Was it at takeoff or during?
No, I was flying, coming in for a landing, and it just quit.
Yeah.
And but I wasn't actually. It was kind of a short runway.
Right.
So.
At least you had a runway.
Yeah. So, but the motor quit, and it was kind of spooky, but it worked out.
Right. Yeah, that's where power lines and
at least it wasn't in trees or power lines or anything like that.
Go together.
Yeah.
So that's where my husband has, 100 hours and getting close to 200 flights, and he hasn't had a motor out yet and hasn't broken anything yet. He's the model student.
Oh, I hope all my broken stuff's passed.
We'll get you through it, Denise.
A year to break something, but that's not saying much with the number of flights I've had.
We lost hot buttered Steve.
Where'd he go?
I think he's chasing the mailman. Oh, welcome.
So we still literally have 31 people watching.
Yes.
Wow, how about
I love you.
We've had a couple of people say how much they've enjoyed the show.
yeah, there's so many pieces and so many things that were so transformational with everything that, I mean, it's hard to do the show, keep on track, and cover any of the things that I thought I wanted to cover earlier.
Well, stuff that we've discussed in the past. If you're still working on it, you're welcome to come back. I hope you can. And we'll kick some butt on that.
And keep on trucking, keep on flying.
Yep.
Yes, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We'll
I'm
have
just like so excited that we have summer and flying weather. And
When was your last flight?
I have to pull up my log because it's been long enough ago. June
And when
10th.
you do go,
No.
who do you normally fly with? Just your husband, or
So, of the whopping 14 flights that I've had, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My husband didn't get to see me fly until flight 7. So right now, I always have him. I've always had him with me. And because I'm still in what I would consider to be training mode, because I mean, I really thought I'd be leaving training with, 30 flights or something. So for me to be at 15, I'm kind of like, I want him on the radio for me when I'm launching until like flight 25 or so, just because I want him to be just affirming what I know to be true, that my wing is good or not, and that I'm good to send it or not. Like last night on my first launch attempt, everything was great, but there was something wrong. I had adjusted my seat board and I wasn't very happy about the way it felt. And so I ended up killing it, but he basically, the only thing he said was, the wing looks good at one point to reassure me. And then, given me a confirmation that I was good to go. It's not like he's having to play instructor and tell me everything to do at the moment. It's just having him there on the radio right now for my launches. So
does he go up in the air and talk you up, like while your wing is going up, saying it's good, or off to the left?
So
does he
I'll have
fly
him
above?
I'll have him on the ground on the radio.
Okay.
So like ideally, like last night, I would have gone and launched, and then the wind at the different altitudes would have been fabulous last night had I been able to get up there. So it would be me launch and then give him the clearance. Go ahead, get your butt up here. I don't need your help, That would be the ideal thing. I don't, because I'm not very instructable, he's not much help to me when I'm landing, because I'm not going to be able to do what he's telling me to do anyway at this point. So
You're coming down no matter what.
well, I mean, my landings, it's like, right. So I have to land no matter what. I did have one landing like squeaking in a minute before the end of legal flying, at a particular airport where his help was great because it was so dark. To be able to see anything was kind of crazy. Lit up the runway, had those lights going, and this is the one I landed on the pavement on, which just happened to be a fluke with the runway, the taxiway, and then the pavement in between that's not very wide. Of all the places my glide slope ends up landing me is this one spot. So,
Have you landed on many pavements?
pardon?
Have you landed on the pavement many times?
Just that once. So I'm typically flying Not where I'd be landing on pavement, but at that particular airport. And the wind has to just be in the right direction to even bother flying there.
Yeah.
But
Do
it's
you,
a
how
it's a
often do you get
sweet
out to go
little
kite?
airport. It's good. I'm sorry.
How often do you get out to go kite?
So I used to go kite, not every day, but I kited for like a year before training. And that was kind of my thing, would be go to the park and kite during the afternoon and listen to a podcast
Wow.
or music or whatever, you know. So I have quite a bit of kiting time. I haven't been kiting as much lately as I should be.
So do
But-
you feel like anytime you have gone on to motor, like your glider control feels nice and comfortable to you and all that? Like, is that ever a worry? Do you have anything else going in your mind, you know, when you're thinking about like, should I send it or not? Or like, what are you thinking about for like the days where it's like, nah, I'm going to call it?
So, last night I had to call it after my second attempt. So if my first attempt is successful and great, you know, those are the good days, right? Last night it was like hot carrying my stuff around. I was hot, I was sweaty after my first failed attempt and setting everything back out. Then I tried to launch again and it was like nil wind. I couldn't even get the wing over my head. Like, I mean, I could not run fast enough to get the wing up. And at that point, my heart rate was like around 160, 157 or something. And so that was where I had to call it and tell my husband, get your stuff, get up in the air, don't worry about me.
And do you usually attempt to like launch in very no wind days, very little wind? Because you're on a Mojo, right?
I am. So the Power 2 with the shark nose comes up a lot easier than the old Mojo. But like last night, my first attempt, the wing came up perfect. And when I decided to kill it, the wing was just hanging there above my head. It took effort for me to get the wing down. It was just like at that perfect point where, you know, if hindsight was 2020, I really wish I had gotten that one in. So one of the things that goes through my head, and sometimes I will set a number before I leave the house of how many launch attempts I'm going to allow myself. And this is, so like Cynthia, Greg Anthony Harris's partner. So like the experience that she had where she tried to launch like 8 times or so and had the really bad, I don't know what, you know, accident, right? So it's like
The stall, yeah.
So it's like having that whole thing and landing the way she did and then having to overcome all those mental struggles with flying. Like I always keep myself in check with how worn out I am. Should
It's
I
funny
be
you bring that up though.
should I be
because of
doing
her.
it again or not? Well, I mean, so it's a real thing where, and especially say you're out with a group of 10 guys and everyone's like, send it, you know, like the attitude can be a little bit different. And that's where don't care what everyone else thinks. I'm going to side on the side of caution and not get injured, not die. Right. So it's that whole balance of, yes, I need to be more aggressive. And yes, I need to take a few more chances than I do right now. But this is also why I have a broken prop right now, is I tried to take a chance and I shouldn't have, you know. It was one of those moments where this is not the perfect launch scenario, but I'm going to try it anyway, even though I knew better. And my
What was
husband.
the circumstances behind the prop?
So there's a soccer field that is not beginner friendly that has trees on 3 sides of it, we get really fun wind issues and everything. But for a while, it was the best spot I had. The wind direction that particular day, I had to go across a soccer field, which then had a little bit of an uphill into a next soccer field. So I was not able to get off the ground before the uphill. So like trying to run uphill, and it was like a straight and then an uphill and then another soccer field. So it's like trying to go up like that as you're running. Didn't go well, but I didn't break any lines, just the prop.
Was that because of like a sit down or something?
It was so like trying to go uphill at max speed, and like, can you pull enough brake to get over it or not? And is your lean back? I mean, it was
Oh, okay. That's funny how you brought up Cynthia though, because for the longest time, me and another flying buddy, like when I go to launch, even if it's no wind, there's a lot of times I wouldn't pull any brake at all. I'd just be like dead sprinting. And it's kind of scary because when you're going that fast, then you feel really out of control. And like, hey, am I going to stall? So I'd like never pulled any brake, but I never understood the physics that if you're on full board, you didn't touch any brake and your wing's just flying and it's going and surging and doing stuff. That wing has speed and you can actually pull stuff and be completely safe. You just ease up on it sooner. And yeah, for the longest time, I wouldn't do it. And even to this day, I don't pull a whole lot of brakes. So I work a lot harder than I have to on launches.
well, and that's where, so this is where, you know, I've not flown at a fly-in. I've been to a few though. And so, you know, getting to sit around and watch a lot of different people's different techniques and to sit and scratch your head and be like, why are they not leaning back? You know, they could have been off the ground a lot sooner. But then to be able to, like right now, last night, that was a problem I had where I'm just like, I got to get my lean back dialed back in. I go through phases, you know, I go through phases where it's good. And
I kind of, at least for myself as a beginner, like I've kind of realized I beat myself up way too hard over things, which is really considered finesse. So like things like posture, I'll beat myself up like, oh, I had terrible posture. I was running like crap on this launch and I flung in my seat and I almost sat. But like, even when you're like at a fly and you're watching people and their lean backs and stuff like that, some of that is just developed finesse that naturally takes many people a long time to do. Sometimes you don't really need a great lean back. It's more of just a straight posture where you're able to take off and didn't feel like anything was wonky. But yet as like new people, we can really beat ourselves up with like super high standards sometimes.
well, it also depends on who you trained, where you trained, how you trained.
Mm-hmm.
In Michigan, for example, we really got focused on our leanbacks because that was one of the differences that Justin was able to identify in people's launches is how much practice you do walking around, getting your lean back dialed in. And then, I mean, if you can cut your running down by having, you know, your force in the right, instead of having to run twice as far doing this.
Right.
Wow, I sit here and listen to you guys talk about how much you have to run and lean back, and
that's right.
All I have to do is just climb in my little trike and just hit that throttle and
got to work for it.
Work for it.
Work for it.
It's just so nice just to sit down in that trike and take off. You really got to try it.
So I've been up on 2 different trikes with 2 different people. And I was getting to a point here this spring where I'm like, I'm going to have to go find a tandem just to get in the air because the wind and the weather and everything was so crazy for a few months that I couldn't fly. So then, I mean, this is where I went to Florida for a week, just trying to chase good wind, and then we had bad wind the whole time. And then while I was in Florida, everyone at home was flying, so that didn't work quite as expected.
And the trees are pretty tall in your neighborhood, aren't they?
So I'm really hoping that we don't have a super, super crazy hurricane season this year, because I need to rack up flights.
You'll get there.
Slow and steady.
Yep. Friday will be a good one for you.
Yep.
Fingers crossed. So, all right.
I say that, but I can't fly because I have a broken prop.
You could steal Randy's.
I could.
I would.
I might do that.
I'm not even married to him. I would steal his prop.
Yeah.
We want to steal her rims off of her trike.
Yeah, I got some nice ones.
So, Susan, in your
Yes.
area, you've got a lot of wooded trees and stuff, or like very tall, nonstop forests, right?
Tall trees everywhere.
So you got to deal with Rotor Central most of the time.
Well, so not just that, but as a beginner, I need places where I could fly from that. So say you're climbing out with an Atom 80
Right.
and your motor goes out, you don't want to be just immediately over a whole bunch of trees. So
Well,
even,
you got experience in that, so why is it?
so even finding a launch site that makes sense for a beginner isn't always the easiest thing.
Those trees are going to be a lot different than orange trees.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well-
not as delicious.
Not,
That's why I get pulp in my teeth. Yeah. So, and I do have sometimes when I am over trees, I have to battle a little bit of a PTSD reaction with that. And this is where, so like with paramotor training and all this, I was kind of using it as a little bit of a tool to overcome a whole bunch of past stuff. I wasn't ready to be adding and heaping onto the.
oh.
We're back.
I think she froze.
No, she's just holding still
Yeah.
extremely well. This is impressive. She told me she was going to do this.
All right. So while we're doing that, we're kind of starting to drop like flies a little bit because people are going to bed. Eric's going to do one more spinny wheel. And I'm not sure if you heard about Northern Lights Paramotor is doing a fly-in up in Tomahawk, Wisconsin, July 8th, 9th, and 10th. So if you can make it to North Central Wisconsin this year, it'll be our first annual. And they're going to have a pancake breakfast in the morning. And we're hoping to have some general aviation come in. And we're going to be throwing out one free pilot entrance on this drawing here. So if you can make it, you're in free.
Oh, Steve!
Oh, how did I win?
Hot butter Steve.
Spin it again. Spin it again. You're on this. You can't win it.
Are you able to do it again? John Wayne says he'll be there. Awesome. Karen up and Steve are coming
Yeah.
up to our fly-in.
Flying.
Still
Sean
waiting for
Napster, I
work
think
to
you
tell
should
me.
show up. Sorry, Steve, what? Luis and Randy are driving up from Mississippi. Nick Griffin.
Yep, Nick, you can thank me, buddy.
Nick, are you going to come up to Wisconsin?
Where is Nick again? I forget. It's not.
It's in
It's
North
not in
Carolina.
Ohio.
Carolina, isn't he?
North Carolina. Yeah. So if you come up, you've got a free weekend of flying at the fly-in.
Awesome.
So, all right. We lost Susan.
Uh-oh.
She went out one wheeling. She gave up on us. So, all right, guys. You guys got anything else to add? We hit close to
Almost
2 hours.
2 hours. Wow.
Well, it's the 1 year show. We got to party and celebrate.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
Too easy. What you got?
Stevie.
Oh, there she
People
is.
one wheeling?
We lost internet. It is
Uh-oh.
and like we've got like 1G, like, you know, we've got crazy good service and internet's down.
So while you were gone one wheeling, we did a drawing for a free pilot registration for our fly-in at Northern Lights Fly-In.
Did K-Ray get it?
No. Actually, Hot Buttered Steve won, and he gave it up, and Nick Griffith won.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay, Nick. No, Nick definitely has to go.
Yep.
Yes. Be awesome to see him here. All right. So, anything else you got a beautiful house.
Thank you. There's like, I don't know, there's a thunderstorm or something, which might explain the internet, but it's still weird.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, our cable is underground. It's buried. There shouldn't be any problems.
All right. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you tonight that came on, and also everybody in the chat, as Linda would say, all my para peeps, my chatters. Thank you for being here each week with us. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys.
That's right.
And I didn't even look to see who we have next week. So it'll be a surprise.
We'll be Susan again. Yeah.
No.
Susan round 2.
Yeah.
This is where she's unfiltered and she wants to talk all the shit.
No, it's all the stuff people really want to know. Like,
Oh yeah.
what kind of bumpers do I have on the one wheel? And what kind of fender? And what kind of grip tape? Not those paramotor gear questions.
All right. So we ready to say goodnight?
We better.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful night. And Susan, you have good flights on Friday. Hopefully you
See what the
come
weather
back.
does.
Yep. It looks like we're not going to get some good stuff here. So, but thank you again, all, and we'll see you next week. I got to make sure I got the right outro here. Crap.
Yep.
If we don't see you on there, we'll see you in there.
That's
Yeah.
right. Be there or be square.
Night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
We're caught in burning fire, almost